new head coach in Seattle mean for Geno Smith? I mean, I think that most people would say, well, it's a John Schneider decision. We'll figure it out in a little bit. But it's still an interesting topic. I mean, Schneider, this was Brandon Gustafson reminded me of this morning, used to go out of his way to scout top quarterbacks, even with Wilson here. Even when you knew for sure Wilson wasn't going anywhere, he would still go to pro days for guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen to see if just maybe there was something there that he'd be willing to take a shot on. So he's always been someone interested in adding more quarterback talent, even if he hasn't been able to do it. Meanwhile, there are some really nice quarterback options in the draft that could still be available at number 16. So let's backtrack just a little bit, Bump, before we start answering this question and figure out what's already been said. This is what John Schneider had to say yesterday on Geno's season.
I think Geno had a good season. It was a little bit opposite of last year. He started out real strong last year and, things, dipped a little bit the second half. And then I thought, this year he started out not quite as strong as last year and then finished in a real strong manner.
Now, Mark Schlereth knows that the development of a quarterback under John Schneider, under a new head coach, will be pivotal, and thinks for him that's why they might go with someone other than Dan Quinn.
Age doesn't mean a whole lot to me when it comes to, innovative thinkers or whatever. But I would think that after having a guy that was considered a defensive head coach for all these years, that a guy like Ben Johnson, a guy that, is quote unquote a young, innovative offensive talent, that would be a guy that people would be kind of interested in. He's a young one. Bobby Slowick in Houston, what he's been able to do with C.J. Stroud has been incredible. If you're looking to, develop, again, it's all the quarterback development, right? And, obviously you guys are going to make a change at some point at the quarterback position, and you're going to go younger at some point. So, that could be the thing that, that motivates ownership to go in a different direction that way.
So there's three important bits of information that I'm going to give you to start this bump. Number one was that John Schneider thought Geno's season was the opposite of 2022 with some good overall results. Two is that Mark Schlereth, someone from the outside looking in, says, look, either way you slice it, development of a quarterback is going to be critical over the next couple years in Seattle because eventually they are going to get that young guy. The third thing is this from Brady Henderson.
That first decision is going to be on Geno just because the way his contract is structured, his base salary for next season, $12.7 million, that's the base salary, which would become fully guaranteed if he's still on the roster on February 16th. That's, 5 days after the Super Bowl, and that was a month from yesterday. And so those kind of trigger dates basically act as deadlines for teams to make a decision on a guy because they're not going to keep him on the roster past February 16th, have his $12.7 million base salary, which is about half of what he's scheduled to make next season. They're not going to have that become fully guaranteed and then move on from him.
Not only is this an important decision, it might be the first one that John and this new head coach make because that guarantee kicks in February 16th.
Oh, it's going to be at least a major one. Obviously, they're going to look at the roster and, cut some guys that they feel they don't need. But when it comes to notable names, this was probably going to be the first big decision. I've been looking at mock drafts just to kind of see what people are thinking. When you get to the number 16 spot, I've looked at several. I see two names, right? And this is a mock, right? Doesn't mean anything, really. It just gives you some perspective. Cameron Kinch, a safety from Miami, has been slotted in with the Seattle Seahawks. And then another mock draft, you have Chris Jenkins at defensive tackle for Michigan slotted at that spot. So I think people think what we think. This defense needs to get better. At the number 16 spot, you take the best defensive player. But if you do cut Geno, you're left with Drew Lock. Do you think a guy comes in here, say you get an offensive coordinator at Ben Johnson, a Slowick in this piece, and they go, or even a Jim Harbaugh, let's shoot for the stars, right? And they come in and Geno's not, they cut Geno. Are you rolling with Drew? Who else is going to be out there? We talked about some available guys, right? You got Justin Fields, who's out there on the market, who can be traded for or whatnot. You also have Kirk Cousins, who was going to be a free agent. Russell Wilson ain't going to be back here, but he's on the market as well. The first decision this head coach has to make is whether or not he's going to keep Geno and where does this offense move forward at the quarterback position. But the most important assignment is getting this defense right. So we're going to learn fairly quickly how they view this team, how they view this offense, this defense, and especially Geno. I think your best bet is to keep Geno around and try to draft a quarterback late because even if they do go quarterback at 16, the drafts that I'm seeing, Bo Nix is gone. Obviously, Cam Williams is gone. Caleb Williams. Bo Nix is gone. So not even J.J. McCarthy. I don't see him up there when it comes to being picked. So you'll have some options there. It's going to be real interesting really fast.